Well, hello, my dear friends. Justyn Smith here. Thank you for clicking play. Thank you for jumping back on the channel today. It's certainly a blessing to have you here with us. Now, I love the character of David in the Bible. He was a man that had a heart after God's own heart. And we're so thankful for the examples that David brings to us. And one of them today is a good one. Today, its topic is God's timing is perfect. Now, we're not just talking about how, God has a way of moving about in time that is perfect. We're talking about a man who waited on God's timing, not superstitiously, but yet simply trusting God and His timing. Let's learn a little bit about it, and let's be challenged in that today to whatever capacity that we are leading people for the glory of God. Number one, David faced the challenge in front of him. How many times do we need to just get up, go out, and face the challenges of our day? They're a little bit different than what David had, more than likely, but they are challenges nonetheless. Notice the challenge that David had. And when the Philistines heard that David was anointed king over all Israel, all the Philistines went up to seek David. And David heard of it, and he went out against them. And the Philistines came and spread themselves in the valley of Rephaim. As we begin to realize what is going on here, we find out that David had a history with the Philistines to varying degrees. And now the Philistines are coming and spreading out before because they've simply heard that David was king. And David was willing to face the challenge that was in front of him. But notice the second thought. Before he fully engaged, he sought the Lord. And I love this. This is where we begin to understand how God's timing is perfect, and David is a man who trusted in God's timing. David inquired of God, saying, Shall I go up against the Philistines? And wilt thou deliver them into mine hand? And the Lord said unto him, Go up, for I will deliver them into thine hand. Okay, this is an asking and receiving situation. This is a praying to God and God giving the answer. And David is ready to face his challengers. David is ready to face his challenge, and he meets that challenge head on. And we are encouraged in the same way today to meet challenges in this life and be the spiritual leaders that we need to be, all being reminded of how perfect God's timing is. Notice number 3, that he gave the Lord the credit. He gave credit to God. It says this in verse 14, So they came up to Baal Perazim, and David smote them there. And David said, God hath broken in upon mine enemies by mine hand, like the breaking forth of the waters. Therefore they called the name of that place Baal Perazim. I mean, we are talking about David saying, you know what? God has allowed this. God has brought me to a moment where I find myself as a possessor of the breaches. This is a particular place where I have gained a victory, but this victory did not come by my own strength. It came by my God. He knew how to give God credit. And as we talk about God's timing being perfect, just think, it would not be appropriate to forget God when you sought God to see if you should do this. So David did seek God, and after David sought God and accomplished a victory, he made sure he gave glory and credit to God. Number 4, he didn't take the false gods of another nation. And I love this point about the integrity of David. He didn't want any of it close by to his people. And when they had left their gods there, David gave a commandment, and they were burned with fire. Burned with fire. David says, I don't want them to exist anymore. I want to put them out of my mind and other people's. I don't want my people to go after these gods ever, and so I'm going to burn them. And I love how David takes a stand, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Then we see a fifth point. He, David, exercised sensitivity to God again. Yes, the king again needs to exercise a sensitivity to God, and likewise, you will need to exercise sensitivity to God again. It says in verse 13 and 14, "And the Philistines yet again spread themselves abroad in the valley." And you say, "Preacher, why am I going to have to exercise sensitivity to God again?" Because in your situation, something is coming against you, like the enemies came against David again. So as they're coming again, David's got to seek God again, and he's wise to do so. Therefore, David inquired again of God, and God said unto him, "Go not up after them, turn away from them, and come upon them over against the mulberry trees." Now, at your first reading of this, you have to ask yourself the question, what if God tells you no? What if God tells you not to go up? And David was told not to go up after them, but to go after them a different way. So it wasn't totally a no, don't go that, or go after them. It was don't go that way, but go this way, go up in the mulberry tree way. All because this whole story is going to come around to point out that God's timing is perfect, and a man who is sensitive to God is going to find that out. So, you want me to go the way of the mulberry trees? Now, I don't know what the way of the mulberry trees look like, but maybe David was thinking, that is not like a perfect battlefield scenario. Or maybe David had another thought about that, but David was willing to go the way that God wanted him to go. David, as a spiritual leader, was sensitive to God again. Number 6, that should say 6, he waited on God's timing. Go over against the mulberry trees, and it shall be, when thou shalt hear a sound of going in the tops of the mulberry trees, then thou shalt go out to battle, for God is gone forth before thee to smite the host of the Philistines. Now, why couldn't God go out a different way? God can do anything. Amen to that. But God had a different plan and a different way for taking out the Philistines that day. And it required a man who would be sensitive enough to ask God, do I go up? I mean, think about it. I've just won the victory. I can go in and fight this enemy again. But wait, I need to ask God, God, what should we do? Go not up after them. Okay, Lord. What do you want me to do? Go over the way of the mulberry trees. Okay, Lord. And they go over the way of the mulberry trees, and they waited for the sound of the mulberry trees. And then when that sound came, they knew that was their sign. That was their understanding that the God of hosts had gone forth to smite the host of the Philistines, as we read about in this last verse that we are going to look at today. Ultimately, this is teaching us and reminding us that God's timing is perfect. As David waited on God's timing, he was sensitive unto God. He was a man after God's own heart, and this challenges us today to be people after God's own heart as well. If a leader in the days of battle like David could be sensitive enough to inquire after God and receive an answer, you and I, in this age of grace, salvation through Jesus Christ, access to God, boldness to come, we ought to be able to inquire at God as well. We ought to be able to seek the face of the Lord and understand, which way do you want us to go, God? How do you want us to move forward? And to be able to say, okay, or all right, I'll stay. I'm going to be sensitive to you because your timing is perfect. Where are the men, where are the ladies who will stand up and say, I will wait on God's perfect timing. I will trust that His way is perfect. And His way truly is perfect. He is the way, the truth, and the life. There's a perfect way to come unto God, and that's through Jesus Christ. And He has a perfect timing for everything in this life. We can trust Him in all seasons. Let's depend upon Him together and individually today. My dear friends, thank you so much for watching this video to its end. Thank you for click and play. I do wish you a very blessed day.